They say no one escapes from Blackridge. It's not just a prison. It's a black hole, a place where the world's most dangerous secrets, and the people who know them, go to disappear. Hidden deep in a mountainous region, surrounded by miles of barren wilderness and electrified fences, Blackridge wasn't on any map. No one was supposed to know it existed, but I did. And I got out. It started with the screams. Inmates screaming in the middle of the night, not out of fear or pain, but madness. Blackridge had a way of breaking people, slowly grinding down their sense of time, identity, and hope. The walls seemed to breathe with despair, a cold, oppressive presence that seeped into your bones. Even the air tasted different, sterile, metallic. But I wasn't like the others. I had a reason to survive. They'd locked me up because I knew things. Things about people in power, things they'd kill to keep buried. And if I stayed here, I'd die like the rest of them, forgotten. The first step was blending in. I made myself invisible. I was just another nameless inmate in gray overalls, shuffling through daily routines. The guards, cold, efficient, and faceless behind their reflective visors, barely noticed me. That was the plan. While others snapped under the isolation and relentless interrogation sessions, I stayed quiet. I listened. I observed. Blackridge had no windows, no clocks. They controlled everything, the light, the air, the food. Meals came at irregular intervals, and the lights dimmed and brightened at seemingly random times, disorienting us. Days bled into nights until time became meaningless. But I noticed the patterns. The guards' shift changes were staggered, but not random. The cameras, designed to cover every inch of the prison, had blind spots for precisely 3.2 seconds when they rotated. The air vents, though narrow, were unmonitored. It took months to piece it all together, and longer still to find a way to exploit it. I knew I couldn't do it alone. That's where Red came in. Red wasn't his real name, of course, but no one in Blackridge used real names. Names were a liability, a link to the world outside that could be used against you. Red had earned his nickname from the faint scar that ran across his cheek like a jagged lightning bolt. He'd been a hacker on the outside, a legend in the cyber world before the government snatched him up. He'd cracked codes no one else could even understand, and that made him dangerous. When I told him my plan, he laughed in my face. "You're insane," he said, his voice low so the microphones wouldn't catch it. We were sitting in the common area, a sterile room filled with bolted-down chairs and tables. The other inmates milled around us, their faces blank with exhaustion. "No one escapes Blackridge. No one's tried like this," I whispered back. "You're either in or you're out. But if you're in, you need to trust me." Red studied me for a long moment, his dark eyes narrowing. He was cautious, suspicious of everyone, and with good reason. Blackridge thrived on betrayal, but I could see the spark in his eyes, the faint glimmer of hope that hadn't been completely extinguished. He wanted out just as badly as I did. It took weeks to convince him, but eventually Red agreed. We spent hours whispering in code, our conversations disguised as meaningless chatter about nothing. Red rewired the vent's sensors, masking our movements as routine fluctuations. Meanwhile, I focused on the guards. I'd noticed one, a rookie, by the way he hesitated during inspections. He was green, nervous. People like him were easy to manipulate. The air in Blackridge was always cold, a deliberate tactic to keep us uncomfortable. The hum of fluorescent lights was constant, a background noise that drilled into your skull. The walls were gray and featureless, broken only by steel doors and security panels. Every inch of the place was designed to remind you of your insignificance, your powerlessness. But I refused to let it break me. I waited for my moment. During a staged fight in the yard, a distraction Red and I orchestrated, I slipped a piece of paper into the rookie's pocket. It read, "Meet me in cell 218. Midnight. Come alone." He came. I was counting on his fear, his need to prove himself. When he opened the cell door, I struck. A quick chokehold, just enough to knock him out. I took his uniform and access card. The fabric of the uniform was stiff and smelled of disinfectant, but it fit well enough. Now came the hard part. Red and I moved fast. Dressed as a guard, I escorted him through the corridors, keeping my head down. Every door we passed felt like a ticking bomb. The cameras were still looping fake footage Red had programmed earlier, but it wouldn't last long. We reached the service elevator, the one that led to the surface. The access card got us in, but the biometric scanner was another story. It needed a guard's fingerprint. That's where the rookie came in again. I dragged him into a maintenance closet earlier, taping his hand to a piece of cardboard. Crude, but effective. The elevator ride was the longest 60 seconds of my life. When the doors opened, freezing air hit my face. The smell of pine and earth was overwhelming after months of sterile confinement. We were outside, but we weren't safe yet. The final hurdle was the perimeter fence, 20 feet high and electrified. Red's gadget, a makeshift EMP device he'd built from smuggled parts, short-circuited the power for exactly 10 seconds. Just enough time to climb. I tore my hands on the barbed wire at the top, but I didn't care. Pain meant I was alive. Red followed, more agile than I expected for someone who'd spent years behind bars. We hit the ground running, disappearing into the dense forest beyond the fence. Blackridge's alarms blared behind us, but we didn't look back. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and rustling leaves. The moonlight barely penetrated the canopy, casting everything in shades of gray. We ran until our lungs burned and our legs threatened to give out. Finally, we collapsed in a clearing, our breaths clouding in the icy air. "We did it," Red said, his voice hoarse. For the first time, I saw him smile. It was fleeting, but it was there. It's been 6 months since that night. I'm writing this from a safe house somewhere far away. The nights are the hardest. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow outside the window feels like the end. Red's gone, we split up to make it harder for them to find us. Every day, I wake up wondering if today's the day they'll catch me. But I'll keep running, keep fighting, because I've seen what's inside Blackridge. And the world deserves to know. Living outside Blackridge has been both a relief and a nightmare. I no longer feel the constant, oppressive weight of its walls, but freedom comes with its own challenges. I can't use my real name, can't contact anyone from my past life. The people I once trusted could easily turn me in for the right price or under the right pressure. I move constantly, from one safe house to another, never staying in one place for more than a week. Each new location brings a fresh wave of paranoia. Is the landlord watching me? Did I see that car yesterday? I've learned to blend in with the shadows of society. Fake IDs, burner phones, and cash transactions have become my lifelines. I do odd jobs to stay afloat. Nothing that requires identification, just enough to keep me fed and under the radar. Sometimes I sleep in abandoned buildings, other times in crowded hostels where anonymity is easy to maintain. The nights are the worst. Every sound feels amplified in the silence, every creak of a floorboard or distant car engine a potential threat. I sleep with one eye open, if I sleep at all. But it's not all fear. There's a strange beauty in the chaos of my new life. I've seen sunrises from mountaintops, watched the stars from places so remote that the sky feels infinite. These moments remind me of why I escaped, not just to survive, but to live. To breathe air that isn't recycled through a prison ventilation system, to feel the sun on my skin without the filter of bulletproof glass. I've also started collecting evidence. It's risky, but it's necessary. The things I know about Blackridge could destroy powerful people, and I'm determined to expose the truth. I've managed to track down other former inmates, those who survived long enough to be released or escaped like me. Their stories are fragments of a larger puzzle, pieces that, when put together, paint a damning picture of corruption and cruelty. I keep everything: notes, recordings, photos, hidden in a secure location, far away from where I sleep. Sometimes I think about Red. I wonder where he is, if he's safe. We agreed not to contact each other after the escape, but there are nights when I wish I could hear his voice, even just to know he's alive. He was more than a partner in escape. He was a reminder that even in a place designed to crush the human spirit, resilience could survive. Red had a spark, a way of making even the impossible feel tangible. Without him, I'd still be in Blackridge, or worse. But sentiment is a luxury I can't afford. The people who built Blackridge, who control it, are relentless. I know they're looking for me. Every now and then, I catch glimpses of their reach. A stranger staring too long on a subway, a black car idling at the edge of the block. Once, I found a tracker under the bumper of a stolen car I was using. They're out there, closing in. I've learned to fight back in my own way. The evidence I've been collecting isn't just for insurance. It's my weapon. Every detail I uncover about Blackridge's operation, every name, every connection, it all goes into a growing dossier. My plan is to release it to the world, to make it impossible for them to silence me without the truth coming out. But timing is everything. If I move too soon, they'll discredit me, or worse, find me before I can finish what I started. Recently, I've stumbled onto something big. A name, Dr. Evelyn Greer. She was one of the architects of Blackridge, a behavioral psychologist who specialized in breaking the human mind. Her research was funded by shadowy government programs, and she disappeared from the public eye years ago. Through contacts I've made in the underground network of whistleblowers and hackers, I've learned that she's still active, working on something even more insidious. If I can find her, I might uncover the key to taking Blackridge down for good. But finding her means risking everything. I've already left a trail, tiny breadcrumbs that could lead them to me if I'm not careful. Every decision feels like a gamble, every move a potential trap. Sometimes I wonder if I'm already too late, if Blackridge has planted seeds of doubt and betrayal among those I've come to trust. But then I remember the screams, the lifeless eyes of inmates who'd lost themselves in that place, and I know I can't stop. Blackridge isn't just a prison. It's a symbol of everything that's wrong with the world, the unchecked power, the exploitation of the vulnerable, the way people in power erase those who threaten their control. Escaping was only the first step. Now I have to make sure no one ever suffers the way we did. The road ahead is dangerous, but I'm not the same person who entered Blackridge. I'm sharper, tougher, more determined. They underestimated me once. They won't make that mistake again.